Oh, hello there, and welcome to A Normal Meets a Nerd, a podcast with me, Dylan Evans, a very normal person who loves asking those abnormal questions you definitely want to know the answer to.
And me, Darragh Ennis, the nerd, who explains those abnormal questions as best I can, but some of them are impossible. But science has the answers.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's just magic, but most of the time it's science.
Right, so the first question we've got is quite topical for the weather at the minute. Where does freeze the balls off a brass monkey come from? What a saying, by the way.
It is a great saying, and yeah, it is appropriate because as anybody who's watching this will see, we're both wearing hoodies, we're both freezing, and it is quite cold at the moment. But like an awful lot of things in English, especially English from England, is it comes from the Navy. This is where it's meant to come from. So, you know, three sheets to the wind, all that kind of stuff. They're all Navy expressions.
Nice.
And there's an old story that there was a brass kind of tray kind of thing on old time ships that they stored the cannonballs on. And they'd stack them up in a pyramid. And that's what they used to keep them on. And it was called a brass monkey. And in cold weather, the heat makes things expand, so cold makes them shrink. The cannonballs would shrink a little bit and they'd roll off and it would freeze the balls off the brass monkey. But this is probably nonsense, and it's really, really widely like spread as being the rumor of like where this comes from. This is a big thing, and if you ask anybody, that someone will go, "Oh well, actually, it's a Navy." There's no real evidence for it at all. In fact, the fact that a brass plate exists and it's called a brass monkey, nobody really knows where that came from either. It's probably not true. So this is one of those where no one really knows the answer.
Oh no, I hate these.
Yeah.
This is not what I want.
It might well be just something as silly as, you know, it's so cold that, you know, when you're a gentleman, your old chaps tend to shrink up and disappear and in the cold. And it might well be just like, you know, a brass, as in a statue, and that's it. It might just be simple like that. There was a thing, I don't know if your granny had these, but a lot of grannies had these. They were see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil statues, little monkeys.
Yeah.
And they were really widely produced, and it might well be them that they're talking about as literal brass monkeys. And it could just be, it's so cold that it would freeze something that would have balls on it, basically. But yeah, this unfortunately, I know it's a downer to open the show, but this is nobody really knows, and it's just one of those things that's appeared.
So that Navy thing is just like urban myth.
It's probably a myth. Yeah, probably a myth. But there are lots and lots and lots of expressions in like English that come from the Navy, because England for so long had like the greatest Navy in the world, and it was a huge employer of people, not just on the ships but in and around them, that all sorts of Navy talk entered English and it never really left. But yeah, and a lot of swear words and stuff came from the Dutch Navy and all that kind of thing. But yeah, this one nobody really knows.
Swear words like what?
Like fuck comes from fokker, which is a Dutch word.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
we've
like
learned something anyway.
Yeah, we've learned that fuck comes from somewhere. It comes from the Netherlands.
Those Dutch. Next one was a little bit of a weird thought I had, and I was a bit nervous bringing this because I don't want to sound too stupid. But are we the only animals with a chin?
Dylan question. This is always good, isn't it? And the answer is yes. Really?
Like, see, I thought this.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of like, obviously there's animals that have bottom jaws, but I couldn't think of an animal which has like
a pointy chin. Yeah. No, it's pretty much just us. There's a couple that have a tiny sort of claim on having a chin. Elephants kind of do. But you can't really see it because of the shape of the flesh around their face. But on their jaw, they've got a kind of protrusion, but it's not really. Apparently manatees do as well, but again, they're big blubber monsters, so you can't see it. But definitely in terms of visible chins, it's us. We don't really know what it's for.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
Like, because there's only so many bed sheets you need to fold, you know. That's
tea towels.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it is handy for that. And you know, but they think it might be because relative to our sort of size and stuff, our face is kind of small. So our face is reduced, like compared to say a gorilla or a big ape, their faces are much larger compared to their bodies. So there has been an evolutionary reduction, and it might well be that that's the cause of it, that shrinking has left just this protrusion of the jaw sticking out a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of that is down not just to, random evolution. It might be down to cooking.
Cooking.
So cooking, yeah, the fact that we cook our food. So the fact that we cook our food and the way that we eat food means that you don't need a big, massive jaw to chew it. You don't need to break it down as much. It's easier to eat. Our face has got lazy, essentially. And it's just got
case of lazy face.
Yeah. Like it's like resting bitch face. This is resting everything face. So the face is reduced down. We eat our food cooked, which makes it easier to process. We don't have to spend ages. Like if you think our ancestors were eating leaves and stuff, and they have to chew and chew and chew and chew, you're going to build up over time. That's going to build up, and it's just gradually got smaller because of that. And the chin is probably just a little remnant. Also, weirdly, having cutlery has made our jaw smaller. So having knives and forks, because we cut up our food, we don't just have to tear it apart.
You don't have to.
You don't have to tear it apart. So the fact that we have like knives and forks means that our faces got smaller and our jaws have got smaller and everything. Yeah. So we're gradually shrinking our own faces down because we're just a bit lazy. And
it's going to keep going.
Well, honestly, it's going to be very slow because there's no advantage to it. But like we are, in terms of food, we're very lazy. People love soft food.
Soup.
Yeah. And like really like soft, like spongy food that you just nom. That's what we really want. That's what we crave because full of sugar, full of fat, very soft. We're basically just the worst. All of our ape ancestors are looking at us and shaking our heads at the youth of today.
Yeah, but we are the only animals that have a chin.
I think so. I think this would actually be a brilliant one for comments. Do you know that? If you can think of one, because I did a bit of research of this and I couldn't find any. But if you can think of an animal that genuinely, not just has a jaw, but has a chin, a pokey out bit at the bottom, let us know. Let us know in the comments.
Yes, get involved, please. Lovely one, that. Not so lovely. What is trypophobia? Or
trypophobia, I think it's pronounced TRYPO phobia. There's a subset, and it's not a small subset, but there's a few percentage of people who are absolutely disgusted by anything that's got little holes in it.
I've got this.
Yeah.
So I thought I never had a phobia. And my mate was like, have you ever seen, because it's always the hands photos that get to me the most. I can look at a crumpet. Crumpets are fine. I love a good crumpet. But the images that are obviously edited with the holes, it makes I've went itchy. And I've never had like a phobia response, I don't think. As I'm like, is this what people have when they see a spider? If they're arachnophobic, like me head, me scalp now feels itchy at the thought. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a physiological reaction. A lot of people with phobias, especially extreme ones. This one is weird, actually. I think it's possibly some deep-rooted thing about, maybe things that are rotting and falling apart, and you want to stay away from that because that's bad news, obviously. You don't want to eat anything that's rotten. Or potentially there's something hiding in it, like it's uncertain and you don't really understand it. But some people, it's not even just the unnatural ones. It's like, if they see like a crumpet or a honeycomb or something, it freaks them out completely. And it's some deep-rooted level. People think it's off or it's wrong or it's other. And that's something that humans don't like. We don't like the unfamiliar as a general rule. So, horror movies, the creepy thing isn't always, something that's going to try and tear you apart. Sometimes it's just, the kid with the staring eyes that look right through you, or the mannequin that turns its head, that kind of weird otherness. Yeah. And I think this might be part of that, is that it's unknown and scary in that way. But phobias are so strange. Like I'm terrified of heights, and to be honest, that's sensible. I think that's one of the fairest ones. As a species that lived in trees, fair enough. You don't want to be afraid when you're up there, but you want to be afraid of falling. You want to be careful. That's a built-in thing. And I'm genuinely terrified of heights. I really don't like I went skiing, hated the ski lifts. I don't like climbing ladders.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, all that kind of thing. But I don't mind flying. I feel contained in flying, and it feels different. It feels like I'm inside a train or something, But so many weird phobias are out there, and I've done a bit of a dive on these, and some of them are awesome. The best name for a phobia is this is great, abophobia. It's AIBOH phobia, And that is the fear of palindromes because it's phobia spelled backwards.
That's great.
Which is,
That's good.
I only like it for the name of it. It's brilliant. No one should be afraid of words that are spelled backwards. But there's some really specific ones as well. Like some people have very, very weird things, like, they're afraid of. Butyrophobia, very hard to say, is the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth.
I get that.
Yeah,
Fee is a bit much, but
yeah.
That's so niche.
Hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliaphobia is the fear of long words.
I know that one.
A more modern one is nomophobia. What would you think that is?
Losing your phone.
Yeah, no mobile phobia. So being fear of losing or being without it.
If I can't feel my phone,
yeah,
I feel like I've lost a limb. That initial panic is real.
And there's people who even the concept of doing that will really bother them. So, I think this is potentially going to become a real problem for people in the future. Because if your phone breaks down or you're lost or you lose it or someone steals it, you're going to be like crippled with anxiety. It's horrible. But the absolute king of phobias, and this is the best one, it's anatodeophobia, right? And that's the fear of being watched by a duck. And it was completely invented by Gary Larson, the guy who did the Far Side comics.
Oh, no.
So there's you have to look these up. The Far Side comics are little comic strips from newspapers. And this guy it was absolutely epically brilliant, like just sensationally funny. And his one was, he completely invented this word. He invented loads of words, actually. He invented that the spikes at the end of a stegosaurus tail, he called them thagomizers because they killed a guy called Thag, a caveman. And now scientists who actually, study fossils, they use it as their technical term. That's what it's now become adopted in the field. It's the thagomizer and stuff like that. But yeah, anatodeophobia was the fear of being watched by a duck, and there's a guy looking really nervous, and in the background there's like a curtain twitched aside with a duck's head watching.
That would scare me though. That would scare me. Or sitting in your living room and a duck's at your window.
But phobias are weird, and they're bizarre, but a lot of them are rooted in, personal experience. You have a traumatic event and it messes with your mind. Some of them, there's no real logic to them, but the weirdest thing about them is that you can inherit them.
Of like passed down?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, trauma can pass through generations. So I was only reading about this for something separate. But yeah, I have a weird life. But they did experiments on mice, about 10 years ago or so. And this was published, really cool experiment where they associated a smell with a bad sensation, like an electric shock. So the smell of cherries, which mice normally love, with a bad electric shock. So the mice began to fear the smell, like Pavlovian response. That was very straightforward. But they they experimented. They realized that the grandchildren of those mice, even if they'd never been exposed to the experiment, still showed the fear.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And it was nothing. And they even did it where they fostered out mice to different families that had or had not been exposed. It's not learned, it's passed down.
That's mad.
Yeah. And that's something that happens during their lifetime. And it does happen. Now that happens in mice. There's some evidence that it might happen in humans with severely traumatic events and things like that. But yeah, so some fears and anxieties can be passed down from your parents, not through their behavior, but through changes to your genetics.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just bonkers.
That's really interesting. I like that. Yeah. Something maybe a bit less sciencey. Why are tellies so cheap now? When I was growing up, tellies were like so expensive for like
they were so expensive.
They were thousands for like a 40-inch. Now,
and it used to be even worse when I was, because I'm a bit older than you. When I was a kid, before they were flat screen TVs, they were way more expensive. Like cathode ray TVs were. If you got a big TV, that was a major expense. And we had 2 TVs in our house, so we were like la-di-da. That was very much not normal. Well, in Ireland it wasn't anyway. So they used to be a luxury item, and there's a certain class of politician who still says, "Oh, you've got a flat screen TV, you must be doing okay." They're not a luxury anymore. No, they're just basic. That's it. They're easy and they're cheap, and there's lots of reasons for this. One of the main ones is that they're made at scale. It used to be a luxury item, so they weren't made in large amounts. But now companies make them like tens of thousands in a factory every day. It's huge production lines, and that manufacturing stuff at scale makes it cheaper. A lot of the materials that they use are cheaper. The underlying technology is cheaper. So, electronics were very expensive to make back in the day. It was. And everything, like anything you bought, like when calculators first came out, they cost a fortune. The anything that was made, like the circuitry, the tubes, the glass, all that stuff. Now they use much cheaper materials. They use a lot of plastics, which are cheap. And LEDs have become mega cheap.
Yeah.
LEDs, when, like, I don't know if you remember what it was like. LEDs used to only be the little light on the TV, the red light to show you whether it's on or off. That's what it was. So when when you press the little light, that was the LED, and that's what LEDs were. The idea of LEDs doing like a clear image, like we are seeing on our screen now, was science fiction, But they've come along so far, so they're really, really cheap. The other thing is there's massive competition in the market. There is so much competition. So a lot of companies around the world are producing lots and lots of TVs. So they've got a lot of stock to sell. So that makes it cheaper. They cut their margins. They make everything as cheap as possible. They cut costs everywhere and pass it on to consumers. Because if you don't want to buy one from one of the more expensive brands, you can get a TV that's basically the same for less money. That drives price down. But the really big thing, and this is one that people won't consider, and this is the bad thing, because it's the same with every single thing that's cheap or free in the modern world, is data collection.
Data collection?
Yeah. How many non-smart TVs do you have?
They're all smart TVs.
And they're all hooked up to the internet, so you can play through the apps, nice and easy. And they make you sign in, and they know your exact location. They know your age based on your browsing. They know how long you look at things, when you look at them. They know what you're interested in. They know you like football or science fiction or dramas, and all of that is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I'd never thought of that with tellies.
Yeah, so
I trusted the TV.
So the companies that sell them don't just rely. It used to be you bought the TV and that was it. That was their only time to get money off you. They couldn't make any profits. And a lot of people sold secondhand TVs because they were so expensive to buy and they lasted quite a long time. So there was this market there. Whereas you don't really buy a secondhand TV now. Not really. Very few people do. Some people do, but not really. You wouldn't. You'd just go, actually, I'm just going to buy a new one. And it's got all the new apps on it. And every time you log in, every time you watch something, everything you do is valuable to someone, and they sell that on. So they're able to use that information as a revenue stream.
Yeah, I never thought of that aspect.
And a lot of the time, especially if you're a gamer, you'll probably log in with an email that is also linked to other stuff, and they build a network. They know so much about you based on, and like you play games a lot.
Yeah.
So they know so much about you just based on that.
I hate that. It's like a real invasion of privacy, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Like, there is no privacy. If you go into the smart world, if you sign into apps, if you have a smartphone, unless you're very, very paranoid and you create a fake person and you use VPNs for everything, they're going to know. They're going to know stuff about you. It is a massive invasion of privacy. But on the plus side, you don't have to pay $2,000 for a TV.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Balances out. Will they just continue to get cheaper? Theoretically?
There's a limit. There's a limit to how cheap things can get. Eventually, the cost of labor and the bare cost of the components will get to the point where it's not worth selling it for less. They like some things, like when the PlayStations first came out, they actually sold them at a loss. I think the PlayStation 2 cost more to produce than they sold it for, but they sold it because they cheaper because they made money off the games, because Sony made the games. So that's where it was a loss leader. And a lot of people bought it because it was a Blu-ray DVD player at the time when DVD players were quite expensive. So it was kind of like a 2-for-1. And they hated that because they were buying it to watch DVDs, but they weren't
buying games,
which is where they were making money.
Oh, wow. Interesting stuff. I like that. Ooh, like this. And I tasted as this. So why does coriander taste like soap?
Does it taste like soap to you?
Yes. So I didn't know this was a thing, and then I can't remember what cooking show it was on. Someone was like, "Oh, I don't like it. It tastes a bit like fairy liquid." But me fiance loves it, but I just can't. I can't do it.
It tastes different to her, you see, and it tastes different to me.
Well, yeah, I don't,
because you are a mutant, essentially.
Thanks, Darragh.
Yeah. Well, it's genetic. This is genetically controlled. So this isn't a personal preference thing. This is not something you can do anything about. Your genes make coriander taste like soap.
So I'm literally tasting it different to
Yes.
what you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
So
wow.
so there's a few things like this. There's the one where you can smell asparagus in your wee, and some people can and some people can't. That's genetically controlled as well, and it's a similar kind of genetic setup. So there's a gene. Hang on, I've got this written down because it's fly genes. I used to work on flies. All have names. So like if you've got breathing problems, you're Darth Vader. That's like they all have these cool things that are linked and well nerdy things. But the human one is called OR6A2. And that's a gene, and it's a big part of your sense of smell and taste. So smell and taste are almost the same. They're very, very closely linked. And there's compounds called aldehydes. They're kind of like structural compounds of a lot of organic things. And they smell. And they're used an awful lot in cosmetics and in soaps and stuff to give them that kind of smell. And it's part of their makeup. And that's the fact that they're in the soap gives it the kind of soapy smell. But they do exist in coriander in quite high levels.
Okay.
But most people aren't sensitive enough for it to be a problem. So it's just formed part of the background, and the other flavors in it overwhelm the soapy kind of taste, or the soapy taste is kind of just a little background part of it. But if you have a particular variant of this gene, bams it up to 11 basically, and you taste the soap above everything else, and it's not you're not acting up, you're not being
no honestly I'm not. I am usually like that, but this time I'm not, because I remember my fiance was like, do you not taste it's a bit like it's nice and acidic and it gives like a nice lift, and I'm like no,
it's lemony and fragrant and everything to other people, but to you it's not. And you're not. I know a few people who are like you, and it means that, a lot of Asian cooking is a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, it genuinely is.
And, so I've got a friend, Tom, who's the same as you. And he loves Mexican food. So I make sort of smashed guacamole rather than without coriander and all that kind of stuff. Because and I've tested them, because I'm that kind of person. I experiment on my friends. I've tested them and I put like a tiny amount in it, and he's able to detect it like straight away.
Yeah.
He can just get it. Like, so he's not, because some people think things and they get a psychosomatic thing about food, and they go like, I lived with a girl once, and she was absolutely determined that she could taste the difference between pyramid and round tea bags. She believed the marketing, and she was convinced. So I did a blind taste test, and I made 5 cups of tea, and I said, pick which one of those is the pyramid one. None of them were, by the way. They were all round tea bags. And she was 100% convinced it was one, and it wasn't, So some people just build it up in their minds, but this is genetic and it's real.
Good. I like that. I feel reassured. Right, we need more questions from you.
We need shower thoughts. We need lots of shower thoughts.
We keep as weird as you want. We don't care. We will get them answered. So comment if this is on the YouTube video, if this is on a clip, wherever you're seeing this, drop a comment and you'll be on the next episode. Why not?
Absolutely. And we're going to have to be better at remembering who sends us the comments so that we can give them a shout out, because we didn't do that at all except for Rose. So if you can make sure you leave a name and keep it clean, please. Something we can say on air.
To an extent.
But don't be afraid to ask really weird stuff. Really, really odd stuff. It doesn't have to be sensible. It can be nonsense, and then we'll stick it in shower thoughts. We love a bit of nonsense.
Yes, we do.
But this show doesn't work if we don't have questions. And Dylan can't come up with all the gold all the time. We need something from you.
I'm trying. I'm really, really trying. And make sure you subscribe as well. Subscribe through the little
share
button on share. Yeah, send it to your mates.
Yeah, great.